Hi, everyone. Welcome to Free Coaching Friday. Free Coaching Friday is a resource of Living Healthy List, livinghealthylist.com. I'm Denise Stegall. I am the CEO and curator, which basically means I am the editor and kind of the face of Living Healthy List. And essentially, my goal is to bring the experts that you can trust to Living Healthy List. So there is one place that you can come to where you can get your questions answered, where you can get the support and guidance that you are looking for. Let's see. So we're going to start today just with a little bit of information about what we're doing here at Living Healthy List. We decided as a group of experts, and our experts range from everywhere, basically when it comes to health and wellness, everywhere from nutrition, diet, to self-expression and self-love. Essentially, all of the experts who can help you move from where you are today through the gap so you can love the life that you live and absolutely flourish. And Sue, I'm going to mute you here. And that's really our goal, is to have you to flourish in life. And that is what we are here to support you with. So as a group, what we decided this year was we decided on an annual theme. And essentially our theme is resilience, like radiant resilience, and how resilience comes into our lives in very different ways throughout the year. So specifically today, we are speaking about resilience and our personal values and how they go together, and truly how one supports the other and vice versa. So resilience supports those personal values, your personal values support your resilience. And so we want to do some coaching today with Diane McClay. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Diane. And Diane is really awesome. You're going to love what she has to say, how she thinks differently. And when we talk about thinking outside the box, Diane is the queen of thinking outside the box. So Diane is the founder of the Choice and Courage company, and she's committed to helping clients increase awareness, remove barriers, and create a pathway to living an inspiring and purpose-filled life. Again, to flourish. Diane spent 22 years as a public steward of federal and state recreation sites and carries forward her love and awe of nature into her writing, her client work, and in her workshops. Also into her podcast as well. Definitely want to check out Diane's 2 podcasts, and I'll have her tell you a little bit about that later. As a generous optimist, as she is, an avid hiker, Diane carries an abundance of belief in others, a keen ability to create different perspectives, and an insane amount of belief that everybody, an insane amount of belief in everybody that she meets in life and over there on the trail when she's hiking. I see you and I raise you to empower your life through choice, is one of the sayings that Diane lives by. Diane lives in the Pacific Northwest with her partner and 2 doggies. She's a certified professional coach, storyteller, radio host, public speaker, and contributing author to Dreaming Big, Being Bold, volume number 4. At some point, we will see the book. It's usually right behind her. The rest of that book is called Inspiring Stories from Trailblazers, Visionaries, and Change Makers. There it is. There's the book. Awesome. Welcome, welcome, Diane. Thank you for coaching with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for the great introduction. You now remind me that I need to narrow that down a little bit. So many good things. Thank you, everybody, for being here and making the choice on your Friday. I want you to take your right hand, put it over your left shoulder for a minute, and pat yourself on the back, right? As they say in yoga, the hardest thing is showing up. So you showed up. At the minute you show up, you are empowered. And the 2 words behind me today are, they are the foundation, they are the pillars of my business, Choice and Courage. Let me give you a little background story about how I experienced resilience in my life. Imagine being in 1st grade and knowing what you want to do when you grow up, like really, truly knowing, not pretending like, oh, maybe I'll be a fireman or maybe I'll be a teacher or whatever people tell you should be. But in your soul, you know that this thing is possible, but you don't know how to get there. When you go through school and you go through college and you have to make a decision about what are you going to major in, you have to pick something. I was fortunate enough to have my dad be a fish biologist for the state of Michigan for 35 years. And when I had to pick a major, he knew I loved the outdoors. He knew that that was part of my soul. He knew that nature was something that I cared for and I wanted to be a steward of. And he said, what about parks and recreation? And I kind of looked at him like, really? You can actually go to school and get a degree in that? Because I had this magical, mythical image of what a park ranger was. I thought you had to know the wildflowers in Latin by the time you were 5 to even be remotely considered to come into this prestigious group of land stewards and recreation managers. Little did I know that you just have to go to college and look up parks and recreation and get a degree in it, and you're on your way. Now imagine 23 years of bouncing between seasonal jobs, working on rivers, working in mountains, cleaning restrooms and bathrooms, but 25 years of doing the proverbial climbing the ladder, getting more responsibility, getting to that pinnacle of always rising, moving into management, and finally being in my own and being a leader. And then imagine that you get a phone call from your boss at 1:30 in the afternoon. It says, you need to be in your office. That's it. Nothing more. Can you imagine the fear and the anxiety that came through my body when I was like, ooh, I don't know what this is, but this does not feel good. Instantly, regret starts to pop into my mind. What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? Who did I make mad? What did I forget to do? Fear, anxiety, stress, all building in the 4 hours it took my boss to show up. True to my perception, my internal compass, my internal radar, I had done something wrong. I'd made some bad decisions, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But at the time, those decisions evolved into a really big thing, and we're not going to get into those details. But I got taken through a very difficult, awkward, guilt-ridden, shameful HR review process to determine the outcome. Was I going to stay with the agency, or was I going to lose the ability to work in public service forever? Man. So let me tell you the end of the story. There was a point in that process where I wasn't feeling valued. I wasn't feeling respected. I wasn't feeling heard or seen. I wasn't feeling like there was alignment. Lori, you talked about alignment. I wasn't true. I wasn't feeling true to myself. And when the agency finally said, here's our decision, we're not going to keep you in management anymore, but we're going to move you to another position 6 hours away from your family and your home and your community. Hope you're okay with that. A light switch went on in my heart. I did not have to take what they were giving me. Literally, there was a spark that went through my body, through my chest, through my heart, connecting my soul, my heart, my mind together to action. And I said, no, thank you. I resign. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, that is the moment. When you have the moment of choice, you are in your power. And choice is connected to resilience, because resilience for me was I had a long journey to get through pain, the loss of my identity, the loss of my community, the shame, the guilt, all the negative judgy feelings that come up when we don't meet the expectations of ourselves or others. And I'm here today to talk to you about changing regret and stepping into resilience. First of all, it takes awareness. What I know now is only going to fuel me for the future. You have the opportunity. So for me, resilience, a lot of people say it's springing back, right? It's returning to your original form like a rubber band. To me, I redefine resilience as the art of letting go. Think about that for a minute. Think about a rubber band. What happens when you let go of the two ends of the rubber band after you stretch it? It does have resiliency. It goes back to its original shape, but you had to let go in order for that to happen. So that's point number one. Regret, the new definition is it's the art of letting go. And that sounds easy, right? Just let it go. Should be fine. Let that old belief system go. Let how you feel go. Just get over it. Well, how easy is that? How many, raise your hands if you've had anybody tell you, just get over it, let it go. Right? How easy is it? No. So the other thing I teach is that regret is an opportunity. Regret is an opportunity to start again. It's an opportunity to create a lesson or a goal. And it's an opportunity to choose your own path. Now, let me give an example. Anybody ever say anything that after you said it, you're like, oh.
Oh, no, never. All the time, foot in mouth.
Wish I didn't say that. What about doing something? Man, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't date that person. Have anybody got a story about, ooh, what was I thinking? Right? It's an opportunity to choose your own path. I try very hard not to have regret in my life, and it looks like this. The minute that I feel like I have regret about something, I say, what is it that I want? So for example, I'm looking out my window right now, and there's a 3-story burnt marshmallow colored house right in front of me that blocks my view of the river. There was a time where that was a forested lot. Then after that, there was a time that the lot was cleared and it was for sale. And I kept thinking, man, I should buy that lot. I should build my office on that. I could put my toy storage barn underneath my office. I should buy that lot. And now that house, somebody else bought it. Somebody else took the opportunity, and I have regret because now I get to look at the house. And what that tells me is, here's the opportunity: is instead of saying, man, I regret my inaction, I can now say, well, clearly having a place that's my office or my creative space or where I can store my toys is important to me. So maybe I should start looking for other places that I can turn that regret into an opportunity. Does that make sense? It's a very simple example. So what I'd like to do today is I'd like to take anybody who's willing through a transformational journey to change regret into an opportunity, and to change and to demonstrate that you can create real-time awareness with resilience anytime you want. So who's in? Looking for somebody who, I like all of you to think of an event that happened in your life that made you react. Okay, does anybody have one right off the top of their head? Okay, like react in a way that you really wish that you didn't. All right, so we can either do one of these 2 ways. I can hot seat somebody. We can pick somebody and put them on the hot seat, and we can have an open dialogue, and I can coach you through something that happened that you're carrying with you that you'd like to shift. Or I can give you an example of something that that happened in one of my friends' lives. Anybody
This
game?
Is a great opportunity, everyone. It can't be me, guys. It really can't be me. So
it can't be me, because I've done this with Diane, and it's amazing. Somebody else has to take advantage of it.
And truly, that's the purpose, is truly to take advantage of what we have to offer. And sometimes within Living Healthy List, we support each other. Suzanne and I support each other every day. Diane and I support each other on a regular basis. And really our goal is to share that with you.
Let me lead you in, and then I might just pick somebody. After, when I was healing from leaving my state parks job, of course my mind went into the shoulds. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done these things. And then this process that I want to take you through has been born out of that, and has been born out of listening to other people tell me a story, and they stay in the story because they don't know how to shift it. I had a friend of mine who had an interaction with the in-laws. Her 5-year-old daughter was present. The interaction was less than positive. My friend got angry, got kind of explosive, like, you will not do this with my kid, kind of thing. And then the whole rest of the holiday weekend, there's this very weird dynamic that's existing between everybody, because there's a lot of things that got said in the heat of the moment. And then there's a lot of things that actually didn't get said that should have. So let me tell you this. We'll start it this way, and then I'll call on somebody to give me some feedback. Think of the event in your life, right? What was it? Just name it on a piece of paper. You know, I got angry at my kid. Somebody cut me off in traffic. I didn't get what I wanted. What was it? So think of the event that caused you to react in a way that you wish you could change. Right? Everybody have that? Susan, you have a question? Or are you raising your hand to volunteer? It looks like you volunteered. All right, great. Susan's our volunteer.
Well, okay, I will.
No,
This is probably really silly, but my reaction dealing with a granddaughter that is extremely spoiled, I'm not very nice to her. And I want to change that because I don't want her to think, oh my, she's a mean old grandma. But here's a little scenario. She is 6 years younger than her brother. She's kind of an only child, and very, very stubborn. And she's going to do whatever she wants, whether you like it or not.
Okay. Sounds like a great model to work with. I'd love to try to help you with that. And if we can't get to it at the end of the next 30 minutes, I promise you that I will give you an hour of coaching time for free at your disposal so that we can take it offline and give you some more meaningful tips. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. So the event. Is you've reacted to a granddaughter in a way that's less than positive or supportive. You feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, but she's spoiled, kind of deserving, hard to get along with. Maybe there's some other words that you might want to jot down in your paper. You don't have to share them on air. So what's the thing that you wish that you could change?
I want to love her like the rest of the grandkids. I don't want, there's that kind of a window there that when I know she's coming, it's like, oh, we got to deal with this.
Right, right. So let me back up a little bit. The word over my right shoulder, got to remember, is choice, right?
Right.
And we don't always get to choose what happens to us, but we absolutely can choose how we move forward, right? So you can't control how your granddaughter acts.
Correct.
But would you agree with me that you can control how you respond?
That is correct.
Right. Now that's point number 2. There is a difference between reacting and responding. Does anybody want to, does that ring true for anybody? Does anybody want to share with me what that means to them? Responding versus reacting. Why are they different? Lori?
I would think that reacting comes with less intention, that it comes with less consideration, with less, with less, whatchamacallit, when you censor. And so you're saying and you're reacting out of emotion versus the intention to communicate and get something.
Right. Would you say that's without awareness?
Yeah, absolutely. You're responding without an awareness. Yeah.
So one of the things that I teach is the very first place that we need, in order for us to change anything, we have to create awareness, real-time awareness. So think of that one time that you reacted in a way that you didn't want to react. What was the trigger? And you don't have to say it out loud, but if you want to write it to yourself, if you feel like sharing, Susan, you can.
Okay.
But do you know what the trigger was? Like, can you say in this exact moment, this word, this attitude, this tone of voice, this thing, do you know what it was? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Okay, write that down on your paper. So looking back, how did you feel at the time that, like, go back to that moment? How did you feel in that time when that button got pushed? So how can you identify the emotion you felt at the moment that the button got pushed?
Yes.
What was it?
Anger.
Okay,
I-
put
I
anger
wanted to-
on the side of your paper.
Okay.
Anything else?
I kind of felt at a loss because I didn't have the control to, because I've already been told by our parents, I cannot correct their kids. They will take care of that.
Right. Okay, so write down, that's key. You can't correct their kids. We're going to work with that. What if, so I want to propose something. What if you weren't correcting them? What if you were offering them a different perspective?
That would be
Would
better.
that be helpful? Would that be helpful?
Mhm.
So correcting would mean, if I had a kid, don't push your food off your plate. I don't want you doing that in my house. That's my rule. Keep your food on your plate. A different perspective might be, hey, is that the best place your food should be?
Got it.
Right? Or, hey, is there a reason why your food is getting pushed off your plate? Now, if I go back to my childhood, I put beans in a glass of milk because I didn't like beans. For some reason, we had a rule that you had to finish what was on your plate, but we didn't have the rule that you had to finish what was in your glass. I thought I was very forward thinking. Speaking of being an out of the box thinker, I'm like, when nobody's looking, I will put my beans in my milk glass. You know, those old Tupperware,
Yep.
green, orange, blue, non-see-through, super heavy plastic glasses. And then it sat there. My dad goes to clear the table and he picks my glass up and he says, finish your milk.
Yeah.
I'm full, Daddy. It's only a swallow. Finish your milk. There's beans in my milk. So, different perspective. Hey, is there something about your food you don't like? Right? There may be a reason why they're doing what they're doing, but our reaction happens to be is that we don't like what they're doing and we're going to correct it and we're going to come down on people. And this isn't just kids. This is dogs. This is spouses. Suzanne was telling me a story about her husband not putting the dirty dishes or somehow he managed to put dirty dishes in the cupboard, right? So there's a point where we have to decide what we're going to react to, but we can't decide it until we have awareness. So you know how you felt. You know what the trigger was. Can you think back to the time and think back, can you identify what was happening in your body at the time? Did you notice any tension?
Yeah.
Where did you notice the tension in your body?
I just kind of all over. I was just like, I wanted to strangle the kid.
Okay. So you felt
Right.
tension all over. Was it
Right.
focused? So think back. Was it focused in any part, like your shoulders, your stomach, your fists, if you wanted to?
Yeah, I just kind of got a stomach ache.
Okay.
where-
Write that down on your paper. Anger, stomach ache, trigger. All right. So if you could go back to that moment in time and you could change one thing about the way we react, what would it be? Now, knowing what you know now,
Uh-huh.
going back to that situation, knowing that you know what the trigger is, you know what some of the parameters are by the parents that you can't control. Is there anything that's obvious to you that you would say, man, if I had that to do over again, I would do X?
I would take and I've kind of learned this from all of my kids, have the patience to sit down with her and just say, I don't like what you're doing. Can you explain to me why you think you kind of talk them through it?
Right. So it sounds like sounds like if you could do it again, you'd give yourself a little bit of a pause.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now you're moving into response.
Okay.
Right. I'll give you another story. My dad is a terrible driver when somebody decides to cut him off. If he's on the road and someone cuts him off to get to the exit, he speeds up, he calls him a name, right? And he's very justified in his opinion of that person. And I remember one time I said to him, how do you know that that person is not an emergency responder responding to a call out? And he said, well, they're not. I said, how do you know? That's perspective. That person may have cut him off because they're a parent trying to get their kid to a hospital, or because they have an emergency, or because they're a first responder. When we can start to look at things from a different perspective, we also generate awareness. So we get out of our own bubble and we start looking at what's possible. 2 questions I like to ask, and it's a staple of my coaching business: what if and why not? What if there is a reason for whatever is happening in your granddaughter's life? What if you don't know what that reason is? What if you knew something about her that would help you understand the reason? And why not explore it? Susan, is this resonating with you?
Yes, it is. Yep.
All right. So what we're doing right now is we're generating awareness. We're being able to go back to a place that we had in history with 2020 hindsight, and we can say, I know what my trigger was. I know what emotions I was feeling. I know what I'd like to change. And I'm noticing how my body felt. Now, Susan, for you in particular, everybody feels anger in a different place. For me, there's kind of this tightening in my chest, and then my throat gets tight because what I want to say really isn't appropriate. And there's this managing what I'm trying to say. So as you move forward in any situation, I would challenge you to start really paying attention to the knowledge that your body has, right? Because we're going to transform a body of awareness to a body of knowledge, right? If you start to feel like you want to strangle somebody, that might be the time to walk away, recenter, breathe, ask yourself a question. What do I want? What do I really want out of this situation? And then the next question is, we're going to talk about options. When you can create options when you personally can create options, your personal power goes up. Can I go back and talk to my granddaughter about this later? Not in front of her parents. Can I write my granddaughter a letter? This is where you're going to ask yourself the question: to resolve this situation, or to resolve my anger, or to manage what's happening in my body, what is possible? As soon as you ask what is possible, your brain is already deciding to find the answer. All right, here's another clue. Change your perspective. Rather than solving the problem, create the solution.
Okay.
They're opposite sides of the same coin. But when you say, my granddaughter is a problem, your brain latches onto that, and it's going to look for every little thing that proves that theory.
And it does.
Right? But if you could say, what else is my granddaughter? What type of a relationship would I like to have with my granddaughter? What type of a grandmother do I want to be? Who's my role model for a grandmother? How can I get there? What's possible? What if I tried this? And why not? Now what you're doing is you're putting the balance of control back into you. So I think one of your triggers is that you're not in control.
You got it.
Right?
Yep.
But instead of trying to control the wind, i.e. your granddaughter, why don't you control what layer of clothing you put on to protect yourself from the wind or the sun or the rain? Is this helping?
Yep, it is.
So what I'm challenging you all to do, and so we start the conversation is about resilience, right? And we're getting there. Remember, resilience is about letting go. It's the art of letting go. So if you let go of your expectation of my granddaughter should act a certain way when she's around me, you will move into resilience, because you can say, how do I want to be when I'm around her? Right?
Yep.
What's missing? How do I get there? I firmly believe that the positive side of the brain needs to be engaged more by asking what solutions are possible rather than trying to solve the problem. Because there's too many variables on the problem that you can't control. You don't know if she had a bad day at school. You don't know if she's having a hard time with her parents. You don't know if she's fighting with her sisters. You don't know if she's struggling with a learning disability. There's a lot of things you don't know and you can't possibly fix. This is coming into my steps of transformation into positive change, because when you generate awareness, you have power. When you generate options from your awareness, your power goes up. And when you can make a choice, when you make a choice from the options you created, from the awareness you generated, you're literally unstoppable. I'm where I am today because I made the choice not to take the solution that my agency gave me. And I made the choice to say, what's possible? What am I willing to do? And how do I get there? All right, going back to your event. So on your list of things, if you haven't already identified it, identify some things, 1 or 2 or 3 things that you wish you would have done differently. And then answer me this. Pick one of those and then tell me, why is that one thing important to you today? I wish that I had done this. So I wish that I had put my paperwork in on time. I wish that I didn't ask people to work on their lunch hour to help me get something done on a timeline. What I know now is I manage my time differently because I had that regret of something that led me to a very significant career change. So why is that important to me? Because I want to show up. I don't want to be seen as a person who is late or doesn't do things or doesn't respond to people. Right? So if I know what I don't want, I can move towards what I do want. And this is beautiful about humans. We're bipeds. We stand up. Do you realize as soon as you take a step forward towards what you want, you realize that the toe of your back foot is leaving what you don't want? As soon as you walk towards what you do want, you are simultaneously walking away from what you don't want. The beauty about choice is that if you take one step in one direction and you don't like it, you can pivot and take another step. You can go back to the original point and change directions. Nothing is fixed. So going back to regret, how many of you said I dated somebody like, man, if I could go back to that part of my life, I wish I didn't? Well, the thing is you can't go back and undate that person. But what you can say is that person taught me something. That person gave me something. And it was just a choice. It's not a good choice or a bad choice. It's just a choice. Right. So if you make a choice to do something different with your granddaughter and it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. You back up, pivot, and you make another choice. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It's just a choice. Right?
Yeah.
We got 10:45. All right, where are we going with this? What's the cost? So when you reacted to your granddaughter, what was the cost? Or what potentially is the cost? What will you lose? What could you lose?
Closeness with her.
Closeness. What else? What else could you lose?
Respect for myself. I mean, I'm going to lose her respect for how I reacted.
What else?
I'm not sure.
So your homework will be to ask, what else could I lose? You could lose your relationship with your daughter or your son could be compromised.
Okay.
Right? Holidays could get compromised. How you show up as a woman in the world could get compromised. Right? I don't want you to focus. I just want you to know what you could lose, because that tends to be the motivator for our reason to change. Right?
Yeah.
When we get told that we are at risk for a heart attack, we tend to start changing our diet. Right?
Yep.
When we get told that we won't be able to function the way we want to, we tend to start making changes. My challenge to you is don't wait until it's drastic. Don't wait until it's so far gone that your choices are limited. Start creating your choices today. So the goal is to transform your reactions to a response, to transform lack of control into empowerment, to transform your body of awareness. Once you start collecting this awareness, then you have the ability to start changing. So when you, now that you know there's things you could change, do you have an idea if you bump into your granddaughter again and it starts to feel the same way, do you feel like you would react exactly the same way as you did before? Or do you feel like you have the ability to shift into a different response based on what we've talked a little bit about today?
I could shift into a different response by walking away, cooling down, and then coming back to the situation.
Right. And then in that pause, that's where you can say, what is the outcome that I'd like to have right now? Remember that when we're trying to build relationships with people, it doesn't change overnight.
Right.
Right. So you're going to have to do some work on your end to build some trust back with your granddaughter.
Right.
Hey, you know what? I wanted to share with you that the other day I reacted in a way that I just didn't feel good about or proud of. And I'm sorry. That's it. Right. It may take you offering a little olive branch to your granddaughter because you didn't show up as the best version of your grandmotherly self as you want. And offline, I can take you through some steps on how you might be able to help start making that transition. But you have to be able to identify what it is you want. And sometimes you can start with what I don't want. But as coaches, we move people away from what we don't want because that's not a productive place for the brain to really function in. So if you on your own, on your homework time, if you can identify, take a white piece of paper, and I can take you through kind of a whiteboard exercise to do this, but I want you to brainstorm all the things that are possible with your granddaughter and what you want with your granddaughter. Right.
Okay.
And that's going to be your why. So really what we're doing, and I'm going to wrap this up so we get some time for some questions, but what I do is I help people shift from being here to there. It's a transformational roadmap. I have a 9-step process. You don't have to take 9 steps. You can pick one and we can focus on awareness. We can focus on perspective, choice, options. I have a lot of different tools in my tool belt to help you get to where you want to be. But it has to be with one, you give yourself some grace and let go of whatever negative emotion you're carrying about how you personally reacted. Name it and own it and move on. Right? I didn't show up the way I wanted to. I don't want to do that again. I want to be different. Name it, own it, move on. Resilience is the art of letting go. When you can let go of the things you don't want, you ought to, and Lori, maybe you can chime in here, you start to migrate towards what you do want. You start to come into alignment. Would you agree, Lori, Suzanne, my other coaches?
Absolutely, because like energy attracts like energy. So the thing, and God, Diane, the one thing that I just wanted to add on the Swami Salami side is that you are the co-creator of every relationship you're in. And so one of the things you want to consider as you consider all these amazing tips that I'm writing down and going to add to some of them is that you said in the beginning that, you know what, when I know she's coming, I get all, So you've created an energetic atmosphere that she is saying, oh, grandma, she doesn't like me. She's all every time I see her. So she gets all like, whatever her reaction is. So we have to understand the energy we're putting into the room is the exact energy that we're going to get back in quantity and quality. So that may be something, as Diane was saying, what is your intention in your next encounter? And you set that intention and then you set your energy to match that, in that I'm going to be open. I'm going to create a space for her that's different than I've created before.
And the only thing I'd tag on to that is Sorry, the only thing I tag onto that is create the space for you first and then invite her into it. If you create the space with the intention, not to contradict Lori, but just a different perspective. If you create the space and you expect someone, if you say, I've created this positive space, I've changed everything about me, and now this person should show up, you're still creating this expectation that they may not be able to meet. But imagine how differently you'd feel if you'd say, you know what, today I'm going to be the best version of myself, and I'm going to receive my granddaughter however she shows up. I'm going to create awareness. I'm going to note what's happening. I'm going to notice the triggers. I'm going to notice what's happening in my body. I'm going to figure out if there's a different way that I can respond rather than react, which is more responding is more purposeful. And then what are my options? Right. And I love what Lori says. You know, I train dogs and I have dogs, and a lot of people say that whatever the owner is feeling at one end of the leash, it travels down the leash and the dog will feel it. Anybody who has a dog, Suzanne's nodding her head. I have one dog who is great around other dogs, and I have another dog that she's completely unpredictable. So if I'm always nervous and I'm grabbing the leash super tight, guess what? My dog is probably going to be aggressive towards another dog. But if I keep my head on swivel and I'm aware and I see that over there is a dog and maybe eventually they might come into my space, my options are I can turn my dog around. I can drop the lead. I can play with a toy, right? I can do something that does not convey, oh my God, I think she's going to attack another dog. So grandkids and dogs are not unalike. The only difference is grandkids aren't typically on a leash. So we have a few minutes left. Susan, I want to ask you, do you feel like any of this is helpful? And I want to give you a chance to give me a little bit of feedback on if you feel like there's just even an energetic shift in your body after our conversation today.
Yeah, yes, it is helpful. Just to hear somebody else's input. You know, I think in our mind, we know how we should react, but when we actually hear it or talk it over with someone, it makes a big difference.
Right.
You know, it's like,
and
I'm not being judged.
Right. Yep. Well, this is about integrating the whole, right? And the other thing too is, okay, so you had a bad day as a grandma. We all have that with some point, right? We all have that day that we don't show up as the friend or the spouse or the employee or the boss that we want. Give yourself some grace and say, you know what? That day wasn't my best. What do I want to change? Why is it important to me? And what am I going to do and commit to get myself there? I want to turn it back to Denise or Suzanne or Mickey or any of our other coaches. Does anybody want to chime in here? Anything I'm missing? Questions?
I've actually written a lot of notes because, and every time Diane and I talk, you make things so much clearer. And it's almost to the point, and Laura, you're like this too. You'll say something and I'll go, well, yeah. I think truly the biggest thing for me really was, you know, kind of thinking of resilience as the change rather than to going back to that same person, the image of the rubber band. You know, you pull the rubber band back and you go back and you're the same person, the same exact, but when you think about it, that rubber band is never the same. You've overstretched it. It never quite goes back to be the same. And so that image really stuck with me throughout all of this, and thinking, okay, you know, as all of us as coaches, we can all, you know, or as a coach, I can always learn more to support my clients and my other coaches. So I appreciate that image was one of the first things that stuck with me. I'd like to open for anybody else, questions, comment.
Diane.
Mickey?
Oh, go ahead, Mickey. So when you were asking for someone to volunteer, and I apologize, I had to take a phone call.
Okay.
It's relatively important, but not to mention the fact that I was like, oh my gosh, what would I choose to say or whatever, because my biggest issue for like what I need to let go of and what I need to change in my mindset is not, I can't think of the specific moment or the specific event that happened. I just know that I regret not being in a different place than I am right now as far as my business goes. Okay. So, but I can say that I was in a really good place at one time, and for whatever reason, and I don't know what that exact moment was, but for whatever reason, I didn't take that momentum to the level that I should have. And I'm sure there was just a lot going on in my life. I had small children. We had issues going on, you know, whatever it was, doesn't matter. But I still look at that as I regret it. I wish I could have done things differently. I feel ashamed of that. You know, I feel down on myself by that. And I know that that's part of the reason I still struggle to move forward to this day, because I'm still hanging on to that past. So my question would be, and I know you can't like go through that whole process like you did with Susan, but like, can you take somebody through a process like that, even if there isn't that specific of a moment that we wished we had changed? Does that make sense?
It completely makes sense. I'm hearing a couple of things I want to give feedback on, but before I answer, I would actually like to toss it to my friend and my coach, Suzanne Taylor King. If it's okay, could you answer that question based on your experience with me?
Oh my God, you know me so well. Mickey, I have a really great tool that you can actually do today to help you start to get clarity on that. Thank you, Diane, for knowing me so well. I would ask you to find 3 different gifts in what happened to you with your business and frame it in the aspect of what was the gift of knowledge that you gained from that situation? What was the gift of time that you had in that situation? And I immediately heard you had small children at that time. So play up the gifts there. And then what was the gift that you have now looking back on that? Yeah. And that could be maybe I get to do things different now. It's not too late for me. So by finding the gifts in any negative situation, you can change your internal feelings about that situation and say, wow, I get to do that now. Look at all that I learned. But you have to find the gifts first to be able to move past that regretful feeling.
Wow. Thank you.
Mhm.
So my brain thinks out of the box. So if it's hard to remember to look for the gifts, remember that regret has a G right smack in the middle of it. So RE in Latin means RE means to go back. Then you get the big G. What's the gift? Right? And et, if you follow it all the way through, et al, meaning all things, all people. So to go back to the gift for all things. That's my new definition of REGRET.
Mic drop. Excellent.
Boom.
Right? So when you write the word regret, make G so much bigger. And then actually write the word gift vertical downward from that to remind yourself of Suzanne's tips. And the answer is yes with Suzanne. And honestly, what I would invite all these coaches to do is send me an email with your top 2 or 3 tips to shift regret and shame, either what you do personally or what you do with your clients.
Mhm.
I will assemble them and then we will put that out back into the group as a free resource.
I love it.
And to anybody in this group, I'd like to offer you 2 gifts. One, I have some extra copies of the Dreaming Big, Being Bold, which is they're essentially 25 stories of trailblazers, changers, change makers, and visionaries. That's yours free for showing up today. And 2, Mickey, I would love to have an hour conversation with you, a whiteboard conversation about what's floating around in your head. I say whiteboard conversation because I'm your synthesizer, I'm your scribe, I'm the person that can take everything you're saying and I can write it down with no judgment and no plan. And then basically I can put it back to you in a way that makes sense and that you can feel connected to and motivated to take action on one thing. And I'd be willing to offer that to everybody in this group, 1 hour of a whiteboard session with me to get you out of being stuck and getting you where you want to go.
Awesome. And I highly
Wow.
recommend everybody take Diane up on this. She really does see things very differently. I mean, like I mentioned this earlier, every conversation I have with Diane, I always have a big wow. And actually one of the biggest wows has become one of the key things that I talk about in my writing. And that's, for those of you who know me, eat real food, make good decisions, and be accountable is something that I have always personally talked about. But the question really is like, well, how do you do that? And in a conversation with Diane, we came up with just words that I say and I never really thought about was, well, how do you do that? You have to, you have to plan, you have to prioritize, and you have to prepare. And that is something that has grown into something and actually will be part of a book that's maybe coming out next year. So
Very
anyway.
exciting.
So I want to thank everyone for being here. We're quickly at the top of the hour, so I don't want to extend too long because most of us usually plan these for an hour. So Diane, thank you so much for this amazing coaching. Susan, thank you for opening it up and sharing. And this is truly the reason we have Free Coaching Friday, is for the people that we know, our audience, our friends, our coworkers, to take advantage of the love, the care, the support, and guidance that we have to offer to the world. I do want to mention our next Free Coaching Friday is on Friday, March the 4th, again at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Our coach will be Lissa Figgins. She is the Repurpose Over 40 coach, where she focuses on rebalancing, refocusing, and redesigning your life after 40. And I think most of us are, kind of pushing that over 40 thing, over 50 thing, over 60 thing. So thank you again.
I'm sorry, I was saying I'm pulling it at this point.
I love it. So thank you again, everyone. Anytime, any questions, you can always catch me at support@livinghealthylist.com. My phone number is actually on there. My cell phone is on our website. So if you want to connect, text me, call me with any questions. I can connect you directly to Diane, to Lori, or to Suzanne. If you just want to talk to me, that's great too. Thank you. For those of you who are new, Monica, Denise, you are new to our group. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was late, but I came in on a great discussion. So thank you I don't know how we found each other, but I'm so glad that I have found you and I was able to join the group today.
Me as well. And let's connect offline.
Definitely.
That would be great.
Thanks, everybody. And Susan,
you.
you are courageous and brave. And I absolutely have 1,000% belief in you that you're going to get where you want to be with your family. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing everything with us and letting me take you on the hot seat on Coaching Friday.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Bye.